Hey, welcome everybody who's just joined. We're a few minutes early, but thanks for joining early. We're just getting warmed up. Appreciate you joining. We'll just wait till the top of the hour. We're in no way sharing last minute notes about what we're going to talk about and what questions we're going to ask. This has been weeks of preparation in the making for sure. You should have dragged Tim in, Neil, for a last minute guest appearance. Just pulled him in. Hi to those just joining again. We're just getting warmed up. Thanks for joining. We'll be starting at the top of the hour. We do have chat on as well today. So if you want to let us know where you're coming in from, and if you've got questions and comments as we go, we'll be keeping an eye on the chat. We have the Q&A going as well, but chat's live, so feel free to post in there. We like to keep these things interactive if we can. Joel?
Where's the furthest someone's dialing in from? I guess that was the interesting question to start with. Who's going to be the furthest away?
Yeah, we're on the Europe-US overlap time, so still pick up.
Oh, who wants to win? No prizes. I could probably if someone's Ignite next week, we can bring some prizes. If
Cara's winning against us by default at the moment, so
yeah.
Otherwise, good. Minnesota.
Okay.
Everybody just joining.
Where geography's going to come in, like which is further away, Boston, Minnesota.
Well, what's your? I mean, this is a cloud meeting, so what's your start point? Is the question.
Well, Tom's house in Hertfordshire.
We can do that.
As the crow flies.
Hamid, we're going to go for about 40 minutes roughly. So yeah, we're not the full hour. We blocked out an hour, so hopefully we'll give you some time back. Right, we're a minute past, so we'll get started. I'm sure more will join. Thanks so much for taking the time to join. Really appreciate it. In this session, we're going to go through enhancing Microsoft Teams with everything Crestron does. And really the idea of the session, kind of trying to keep it relaxed and interactive, talk through the Crestron portfolio with a nod to Teams and Teams customers. So Crestron obviously has a wealth of devices and solutions and capabilities, but what does Crestron bring to the Teams customer? And yeah, we're going to have a really good session, I think. With me, two esteemed expert guests who will be doing all the heavy lifting. I'm just going to ask the awkward questions. Cara, do you want to start by introducing yourself, please?
Yeah, my name is Cara Shannon. I am the Senior Product Marketing Manager for Intelligent Video and Unified Communications at Crestron.
Awesome. And Neil?
Hello, everybody. I'm Neil Flurster. I'm Director of Technical Marketing at Crestron, and I'm pleasure to come and talk to you this afternoon about all of our great solutions from Microsoft Teams.
Awesome. So we talked a bit in the prep call around kind of the customer journey and the portfolio journey, and we're definitely going to get into the super smart One Beyond Automate VX kind of multi-camera fantasticness. But let's start at the kind of the BYOD kind of more basic end. And Neil, maybe I can throw to you. Talk us through kind of the Crestron Flex BYOD story. If I'm a customer and I've got that requirement, what's the portfolio there and what are the choices?
Yeah, good, really good side point. Actually, we got an analyst in we were talking about, and that was one of the questions he asked, is to say lots of customers looking at which direction to go. Crestron has two main flavors of BYOD, and then in those 2 flavors, there's then 4 levels which I can go through. So firstly, we obviously make solutions for Android and Windows MTR solutions, which have the ability to not only give you a native Teams experience, but also to break out their audio-visual and display sharing via BYOD as well, which is quite unique to Crestron. So whilst many of the Android solutions out there can do BYOD device mode, Crestron's Windows MTR can actually also do bring your own device as well. So you can have that, I want to come in, click to join, have that full fat Teams experience. But I might also on a Tuesday want to come in and do a Facebook video call to my grandma, but I want to use the in-ceiling Shure MXA 920 ceiling speakers and the great Crestron cameras, which we're going to talk about in a minute. So that's the 2 sort of.
And that's a rare. Let's think that's a rarer capability. So as you say, a lot of the Android
rare or even unique. If anyone wants to put in the chat. Yeah, if anyone wants to put in the chat any other Windows MTR solutions that can natively give you BYOD, there are third-party devices you can put upstream and downstream to, again, break out the USB components and the HDMI. But Crestron has that integrated in our enhanced kits, that capability. And then with that, we also have a straight BYOD. So if you don't want any Teams, you just want a pure BYOD room, we also can cover that as well. As I mentioned, we have 4 levels of BYOD. So the first one is Crestron makes exceptionally good HDMI and USB cables. Now, you can go and buy an HDMI cable for £1 or $1 or whatever, and it will work. It's an HDMI cable. Same with USB. You can buy any kinds of USB cables. Our cables, and there's a video actually I put out, we've got like a robotic tester which does like thousands of, stress testing on cables. They're exceptionally good cables, but essentially we can sell you a 10-meter HDMI cable and a 3-meter USB, which are the cable length limitations of those 2 technologies generally, and you can plug them in and use BYOD. That's the kind of basic lowest common denominator. Up from that, we then have the ability to extend HDMI and USB over a structured piece of category cable. And I'm kind of aloof a bit on that because I saw the other day a Cat 8 cable, and I always don't know what they're up to. It used to be kind of Cat 5, then Cat 5e, and then Cat 6, and then Cat 6a and Cat 7. But any structured cable, we can extend HDMI, 4K video and USB over that structured cable up to about 70 meters. So you have a transmitter that sits at one end, a receiver that sits at the other end. You plug your cameras and your screen in one end, and you have a USB-C cable that goes to your laptop, and then that extends the components both ways. The advantage of that is we can
that's not proprietary to your solutions either, right? So I can, obviously I'm going to buy all Crestron because I love you guys, but if I wasn't, I could have another bar solution or another team solution and use your extension capability to bring the connectivity to the other end of the boardroom, for example.
Yeah, really good point. And that's true of all of the solutions we're going to talk about, actually, because all the cameras that we're going to talk about in a bit, they're all certified for Microsoft Teams, so you can use them with any MTR solution out there on the market. So if you've already invested in an MTR, but maybe the camera, you've got a digital camera, it's not performing when you zoom in, our cameras can provide that experience. If you're using an HDMI cable, but you want to make it wireless, our Air Media solution can cut the cable and make it wireless. So all these can be retrofitted to an existing solution or as a net new solution. So you can use them with any solution. So the last advantage of that cable extension boxes, that structured cable extension, is that we can actually ingest power as well. So from a user's point of view, you plug one USB-C cable into your laptop and you'll get video in, video out, audio in, audio out, plus you'll get charging. So it's really elegant from a cabling connectivity point of view. That one cable does it all and extends that USB up to an HDMI up to sort of 70 meters. So that's sort of phase 2, if you just want to use a cable extension but over structured cabling rather than dedicated cables. The next level up is wireless. So we have our Air Media solution where we have an adapter. I hate to use the term dongle, but our competitors use the term dongle, so let's use dongle because everybody knows it. But you plug this dongle into your PC or your laptop or your MacBook, and again, it will extend your display to the front of room display and or an MTR for content sharing. But moreover, it will also extend the video bar, the audio capabilities to your laptop. Now, the huge differentiator that Crestron has versus our competitors is that we do that driverless. So we use a technology called DisplayPort Alt Mode, which essentially, when you plug that USB connection into your laptop says you plugged in a secondary monitor. So it just sees it as a USB-C monitor, so there's no drivers to install. And again, in Teams, it just comes up as Air Media Camera, an Air Media microphone, and Air Media speakers.
Yeah, so it's wirelessly passing through the audio, but also the video and the USB capability. So like one dongle, like a little disk format, kind of, you go.
Yeah, and again, I obviously talk about our competitors, and there are many of these solutions out there on the market, these dongles. But again, there are multiple kinds of technology. Some use DisplayLink, some use a proprietary app. You know, the major one that's always been out there for a long time, you plug it in, it pops up a memory drive, and then you have to double click an application. And again, there's some questions around admin access and, you know, how locked down
if you're properly locked down, that becomes a problem. And can you do it in user mode and all that fun?
But yeah, the Crestron one is, say, DisplayPort Alt Mode and driverless. So we emulate the camera and the microphone on the adapter. So it is, you know, you just plug it in and it works. And it is quite crazy in the fact of, you know, you can plug it into even an iPhone or an iPad if they've got USB-C. And again, driverlessly, it will extend camera, mic, and display. And again, same for laptop. The last option is an IP solution. So we can extend HDMI 4K 444 with HDR, actually up to 5K 21:9 in ultra wide over an IP network. So over a single gig IP network, we can extend USB and HDMI up to 5K resolution. So again, that gives you BYOD unlimited distance, essentially, because, you know, so it's an IP connection. As long as you've got enough bandwidth, we can do that. So again, if you want to then route it to multiple tabletop cubbies or multiple cables, you have all those options. So again, those four options: a piece of cable, over a structured cable, wirelessly, or over IP. We have those four options for BYD, and again, they can work standalone, or they can be retrofitted or supplied to work with either Crestron's Windows MTR as a BYOD breakout, or through an Android MTR as a device mode BYOD extension as well. So loads and loads of options for BYOD.
Yeah, that BYOD and that flexibility to do really nice, clean installs in those environments where you don't want to be running tons of cables, or you're hitting cable length limits in some scenarios with USB.
Yeah.
Awesome. And then I guess like that kind of feel free to throw in the chat if you have any more questions about extension or BYOD. But taking it kind of upper level, obviously we're in this, you know, UCAS hybrid meeting type world. Maybe I could throw to you, Cara, for this, because it's kind of your world. The importance of audio and video in this world, and like particularly, you know, bringing up the experience.
Yeah, so when we think of hybrid meetings at Crestron, we, you know, obviously you have your video platform, so Microsoft Teams, and then from there you're extending the experience with your intelligent video, your intelligent audio, and the ability to interact with your video conferencing platform. So at Crestron, we throw around the term intelligent video a lot. And, you know, that's something that we have built in to some of our Flex solutions. So when we're talking about something like our Android solution, which is our Video Bar 70, that has everything built, you know, all in one. And then we also have, you know, our native Flex solutions, which have you know, are Windows based, and those allow you to, you know, either get a kit that has your video and your audio all together, or you can kind of build your own adventure by bringing in some of our intelligent video products. So when we are talking about intelligent video, we talk about that as a product category at Crestron. So that incorporates anything that has the ability to provide a better view of the room for your remote participants.
Awesome. And Neil, Cara mentioned the video bar 70 there, right? There's a lot of Android bars in our space at the moment. Like you certified for Zoom, you've recently certified for Teams as well. Why would I pick the Crestron video bar potentially over somebody else's?
Now, there's $1 million question, isn't it? I mean,
well, yeah, that's what I'm here for.
There you go. So it's the same with the Windows MTR actually as well. I mean, when it comes to Teams, all of the OEM vendors are given a kind of blueprint. So on the Windows side, we're all told that you use an x86 Intel computer, whichever generation you choose to use. You use the Windows 11 IoT build. You use the Teams app that Microsoft give you for Windows, and so we're all using the same operating system, the same application, and essentially the same Intel hardware. When it comes to Android, it's kind of the same. You use a Qualcomm ARM processor, depending on which one you want to use. You use whichever version of Android you choose to certify for that chip, and then you use the Android app that Microsoft took from the original Teams phone app and made into the Android bar solution. So what does differentiate any of the vendors? Why would you buy Crestron Android or Windows versus any of them? And I guess that's what we're going to talk about today with our camera solutions, which is more so on the Windows side, but on the Android side, it's a large video bar. So we certify it for rooms up to 10 meters, which for the Americans is
not many
about 30
of the bars. Not many of the bars in place certify for that large room scenario. So that's definitely one of the ones where.
And from a video perspective, the Video Bar 70 has 4 cameras that are built into it. So it has the camera on the top, which is kind of the wider field of view camera. And then the 3 down on the bottom are narrow field of view, which means that when you have someone who's further away, it'll use that narrower view and crop that one versus using it from the wider. That way you get a higher pixel density. And that's one of the features that's specifically built into that bar for those larger spaces.
And it has what is becoming more common now, but group framing, speaker tracking. We played around with it, like the composition stuff, the kind of advanced framing, which is so important in those large room scenarios where 3 people will all sit to the left of the desk for some reason. So you actually want to crop in on those people, or they sit opposite ends because that's how they work.
So you have the option to either have that set for group framing, or you can turn on that speaker tracking view, which has that composition, so you can kind of see who's talking. If someone else from across the table talks, you get that nice side by side. If one person's talking for an extended time, you're going to get that picture-in-picture, so you still see the full room, but you're also able to see who's talking up close.
There's a great analogy that I'll take from the kind of car industry, in that a lot of the technology goes to the flagship product. So on a Mercedes, all the new cool stuff will go to the S-Class, and then in years that will trickle down through the solutions. And again, a lot of the stuff that Cara and I will talk about with regards to intelligent video and our Automate VX solution, our high-end solutions, they'll go there first, and then you'll see those trickling down into things like the Video Bar 70. So again, that's one of the great things, and again, the great advantages that we have of developing these multi-camera solutions, in the fact that we can then bring that technology down into things like Video Bar 70 as the technology matures and the functions become more available.
Awesome. So we've teased it a bit. We've said Automate VX and One Beyond a few times. Cara, can you level set for us? What is that solution? Like, how does that fit?
Yeah. So I like to say demystifying some of our intelligent video terms at Crestron. So intelligent video, as I mentioned before, is our product category that covers everything that we're doing at Crestron from the video perspective for your hybrid meetings. So that'll be the Video Bar 70, our Flex kits, and it also includes some of those other terms that we just said, which are the One Beyond cameras and the Automate VX solution. So I came from the One Beyond team originally, and so originally One Beyond was kind of all of our technology. As we've folded into Crestron, we wanted to keep the One Beyond legacy, which is why our camera line, our optical zoom camera line, is called One Beyond. So when we say the One Beyond cameras, we're talking about a particular product line, which is our optical zoom cameras. Automate VX is our multi-camera speaker tracking solution. That is going to be, it's a system that switches between multiple One Beyond cameras to provide a speaker tracking solution in your high impact spaces. Those are usually going to be your very high profile, your executive boardrooms, as well as I like to say your high occupancy. So your large training rooms, your three-way divisible multi-purpose spaces. That's where you'll see Automate VX, which is a product. And then another term, which Neil will touch on a little bit later, is sightline. So when we talk about sightline, that is actually Crestron's high impact space, where we bring in and kind of take aspects from all of our product lines. So control, flex, NVX, routing video to the monitors, all of that brought together is the sightline experience. And you can take elements of that and bring it down to various different rooms. But I know there's a lot of confusion between One Beyond, Automate VX, and Sightline. We usually show the One Beyond cameras with an Automate VX system in our Sightline rooms. So it's kind of easy to get those things mixed up. But again, intelligent video is the product category. Is the product category. The One Beyond cameras are the product line for the optical zoom cameras. So there's I series and P series cameras that are underneath that. And then Automate VX is the system which switches between multiple cameras. And Sightline is an experience that covers all of our product lines.
Awesome. Thanks for decoding that. Right, I'm going to try and hold that in my head and talk through that journey. So let's start with the cameras, because I think one of the biggest things that I see is I see the amazing demos, like fortunately get to the shows, like multiple, like 8 cameras in play, massive room, like really awesome. But you don't have to start there. There's a journey here, and actually you can have a single one of those cameras or even 2 of those cameras working together, right?
Yes. So as I mentioned, our One Beyond cameras have the P series and the I series. So our P series cameras are going to be standalone PTZ cameras. So you can use these just like you would any other PTZ camera, bring them in directly to your Microsoft Teams room. They are actually also, certified for IntelliFrame, so you have the ability to, plug those in and be able to use that experience with just the single PTZ camera. We have a P12 and a P20. Those different numbers are related to the zoom of the camera. So the P12 is a 12x zoom and the P20 is a 20x zoom. So, if you're trying to get a close-up.
Love a logical naming, keep that up. That's really helpful. Talk like 12 versus 20x. Like when do I use 12x and when do I need 20x? That seems quite extreme.
Yeah, so a 20x is going to allow you to get a close-up of someone. And what I mean by a close-up is like kind of the framing that you're seeing of me right now, of someone who is, 60 feet away from the camera. And with an optical zoom camera, that means that the camera brings in the image first and then captures it versus capturing the image and then cropping it. Which is like a digital zoom. So that way you're going to get that full resolution view of that person without, any distortion or anything like that. So in your larger spaces, that's where you'd be looking at a 20x zoom. If you've got a, smaller space, 12x is going to get you a really decent shot up to about, 25, 30 feet away.
So you're in your typically like your multi-camera meeting room scenario, you're more likely on the 12s, but if you've got a bigger room, auditorium kind of use case where you really need that like punch in, then you can go to the 20x.
Yeah, and the 12x camera also has a bit of a wider field of view as well. So if you need to be able to capture more of a full room or something like that, having that camera helps with the field of view.
Awesome. Sorry, I jumped in on the Zoom. So those cameras, so like really good optics there, really good visuals. What start with one camera. What can I pair that with? How can I build a solution with just one of those cameras?
Yeah, so if you're just using one of the P series cameras, you are going to probably be bringing that in and using something like IntelliFrame, or you could, be able to control that manually to pan, tilt, and zoom like you would any other camera. We typically see the P series cameras also being used with Automate VX. So when you are doing one of those larger rooms, most of those cameras end up either being the P12 or the P20 cameras. But standalone, they work for, a great option, to be used with IntelliFrame, or to be able to be, controlled as a standard PTZ camera.
And Neil, at the show we were just at in the UK, you were showing the two cameras in play with no Automate VX controller. That seems like a really, first off, why and how, and also how can those talk to each other when we've got one USB on the MTR?
Really good question.
Those are the I series cameras. So Neil, if you want to take it from there.
Oh, okay, so we were going to break from just the talking and actually show you some stuff behind the scenes. So I'm going to just share my desktop and I'll talk you through this. So let me bring this up here. Let me know if you can see this, hopefully.
Yep, we got it.
Good. So this is one of our rooms in New Jersey, and there's Jonathan and I sitting at the front of the room. Now you can see right at the back in the top of the shot, there is a camera on the back wall, and there's a camera obviously at the front that's shooting down the table. So as Cara mentioned, the I series camera, the I12s, have both a USB connection. They're also PoE and IP enabled. They also have HDMI and SDI, I believe, as well. But what we do is the let's call it the primary camera is USB connected to the Teams room system and works as an optical camera. We have some software called the Camera Manager software, and you can then pair. If I go back here, so you can pair a secondary camera. So you can see in a secondary IP address here on the left, that's the IP address of this rear camera on the back wall. So all that back wall camera needs is a PoE IP connection. Doesn't need to run USB, don't need to run HDMI or SDI or anything like that. You just literally install that secondary camera on the back wall, plug it into a PoE connection, and you then open up this camera software and pair that as a secondary camera to the primary camera. So, and then what it gives you then is these two shots. So there you can see there the two shots. So you've got that camera at the back that's coming down the table from the back of the room, and then on the left-hand side here, you can see the output of the primary camera. And then what we can also do, this is really clever, is we can create what's called blocking zones and non-blocking zones. So I'm just going to open up this shot here and share this with you, because this shows you what we can then create. So this weird looking image here with the red and the green boxes are what we call tracking zones and blocking zones. So in this room, obviously, if someone was at the door waving, going, "You're running too late," tapping their watch, and saying,
you don't really want the entire meeting to zoom in on them.
So we use a blocking zone, and we create a red box over the door and say, don't track anything or don't frame anything in that area. We also put a blocking zone in front of the screen, because if someone's on the far end, again, it would be this weird kind of feedback, loop back thing of them seeing themselves. But then you can then see that green area that says, okay, if you track a person or a person moves in that area, we want to track them. So it's not just a case of putting these two cameras in and telling one's the primary and one's the secondary. There's some clever computer vision that goes on behind the scenes that in the computer manager, you can set up this blocking zones and these tracking zones. So that what happens is that when someone is sitting around the table and talking away, the front camera will get them. If someone then stands up and maybe interacts with a whiteboard, or maybe interacts with a lectern, or is maybe again you've got an audience and a trainer at the front of the room, it can then switch between these cameras. And again, remember, the primary camera at the front, that one connected underneath the screens there, is USB connected directly to the Teams room system, the MTR.
Yeah, the secondary camera in the camera, like there's not another controller box here.
There's no servers.
The MTR,
Nope.
the MTR just thinks it's an MTR USB camera. The cameras are doing the smarts.
So this is available on our i12 cameras. So again, 12 times at the front and a 12 times at the back. You have one as the primary, one as the secondary. And again, using this blocking and tracking zones, you can set them up to say, okay, when you detect a person in this zone, switch to the back camera. When you detect people sitting at the table, group frame and use the front camera for that.
And where are we ballpark pricing? Like, if that's my use case, I just want a bit more camera smarts and single camera. I want that high-end optical. Like, obviously, you've got the MTR price, but whereabouts are we for those cameras?
I'll get a Cara for this one.
Sorry.
Yeah, no, I mean, each one of these, it's going to depend on which camera you select. So right now we have this with the i12 cameras. So those are just a couple of thousand per camera. So the I series, there's an i12 and an i20. The i12 camera, again, that 12 means the 12x optical zoom. Have the ability to either be the front group framing camera that allows for the switching, or there's also a mode within that camera that you can set in the back that enables this to be a presenter tracking camera. Our i20 cameras are only presenter tracking cameras. And what I mean by a presenter tracking camera is kind of what Neil just showed you, where you have that tracking zone. And when somebody enters that zone, it's going to start using the facial detection to go ahead and follow somebody that way. And kind of go through and keep them in the center of the frame with that visual AI. Then the i12 has single presenter tracking and the i20 has group presenter tracking, which means if you have multiple people in that presentation area, that you will have it. Sorry, I just realized my cat feeder just went off. I hope you guys didn't hear that. So you can, with a group tracking, follow multiple presenters. You can also create what we call preset zones, which if someone walks into a particular zone, it'll go to a set preset there. So right now, this dual camera solution is working just with the i12s, but our plans are to expand that out. So you'll have the option to work with either an i12 or an i20 camera.
Yeah, that's good to hear. And the kind of the thing I was trying to pull out there was like, I think that there's definitely a perception. It used to be true that you were going to multiple optical cameras, you were going into the tens of thousands. Like that was the automatic. With this ability to do it without controller is bringing that way down, way more accessible. That's awesome. Okay, so I want to get a bit more fancy. I want to go to my third camera. I want to do extra smarts. Cara, where do I go there?
Yeah, so once you start looking at having multiple cameras and switching between them based off of who's talking, that's when you're going to be looking at an Automate VX solution. So with Automate VX, that all of your cameras are going to connect into a Automate VX system. That system is going to read information from microphones in the room and make camera decisions based off of that. It'll provide a single output that you'll bring into your Microsoft Teams, whatever system you're using for that. And that will provide that switched and composited output in there. But one of the key things to note when we are talking about Automate VX is you can start with 2 cameras and you can go all the way up to those crazy sightline rooms where you've got cameras all over the space. So for around 15,000 MSRP, you can start with an Automate VX system and a couple of cameras.
Awesome. And then you're bringing in zones, you're bringing in tracking. Again, historically, okay, programmers, lots of complexity, lots of presets, lots of work. I know you guys have done a lot of work to simplify that. And maybe, Carl, you could talk about the room designer and how all that works.
Yeah, so I'm going to go ahead and share my screen so you can see what we're talking about when we talk about the room designer. So as I mentioned, we're going to read information from the microphones over the network, and we're going to make camera decisions, but what those camera decisions are is going to be based on how you've set up and configured your room. So this makes it really easy. What you'll do is you'll upload a floor plan of the space that you're looking to use Automate VX with, and then you have the ability to place your cameras, place your microphone. We work with a wide variety of hopefully you guys can see this when I hit the drop down. We work with a wide variety of different microphone manufacturers. And then if you look at this space here, this is the microphone. And then we can create different areas that you match up with your camera. So if I turn on the shot visualization here, you can kind of see what that looks like. And this is a very visual, easy to use tool. So if you were to have your primary and secondary cameras, you can see that this one here would be behind that seat. So it gives you some really good visual feedback here on designing your space. This actually is the configuration for Automate VX. So you place your cameras, you place your microphones, you decide, which cameras you're going to match up with these different locations around the room, what you want that shot width to look like, and then you export this file. So if I just go back here, you would export the project, and then on your Automate VX system, there's this upload project. You choose your file, you upload it, you'll put in the actual IP addresses of the different devices, and that's your configuration. So there's not a lot of, programming or, having to do all of that. It makes it very simple. This is also a great tool for everyone that's going to be using the room to understand how the room is going to function, because it is a powerful system and you do have that element of customization. So you can kind of create it to match the meeting type that you're looking for.
Awesome. Nathan in the chat asked, are there any best practices around flexible spaces and Automate VX or flexible floor plans?
Yeah, so let me pull up something else that I can kind of walk you through really quick. So with Automate VX, you have the ability to create multiple of those, we call them room designs or room configurations, and recall them based off of, just a button on your touch panel. We actually have a space here in Cyprus that we use as a multi-purpose space. So let me share my screen really quick with you, and we can kind of just take a look at that. So this is a space that you can see here we use sometimes as a training room, sometimes, more as a U-shaped meeting space. And then they also do push all of these tables together and do like a standard boardroom too. And so if you see here, so these just become buttons on the touch panel. So U-shaped, classroom, hollow square, boardroom. And then behind that is each one of these room configurations. So that way it'll recall these different ones when you press those buttons. I'm going to play just a quick video. Let me make sure that I'm sharing sound. And you guys can see what this looks like if you want to use another feature of our Automate VX, which we call a scenario. So it allows you to point a camera to a particular place and layer another image on top, which is what you're seeing right now with the outlines.
Yeah, I don't think we have audio coming through, Cara. Maybe you could talk us through what the...
Yeah, so he's in the multi-purpose space here. And he's going to talk about how he presses a button on that touch panel and it will show that overlay so that he knows where to place the furniture. So he's going to go from that training room to more of that U-shaped view. So he'll press that button there, and you'll see that overlay appear. And then he can go over to one of these desks and move it into the right position, and line it up using this as a guide. So if you do have a flexible, furniture, and you're worried about them not getting in the exact right spot, this is a great
super
solution.
clever. Yeah, to get them to line up exactly as you expected it. That's great.
And it's very easy, and with our solutions, just having this up on the screen, someone going into the right spot, and then they'll just go ahead and say start, and then you'll see that it goes back to this new room configuration.
I think it's also fair to say, if people are talking about divisible rooms as well, the idea that you could have one big room on a Monday and then 3 separate rooms on a Tuesday, and then 2 and a 1. You can have all of this equipment deployed in those 3 individual rooms, and then have a master system that then, when you bring it all together as a big auditoria or a big training room, you can then use those cameras together. Because again, these are IP connected cameras, PoE. So you can have it that, say, on Monday it's 3 separate rooms, 3 separate MTR systems, and then on Tuesday it's 1 big MTR system with 12 cameras. And again, you can have all of those presets set up on the Crestron control panel, and then switch it between those options. So it's not just the different layouts within a single room, but you can have that kind of those concertina walls or folding walls that can go up and down. Obviously, you need to deploy multiple systems so that you can cover all 3 MTRs when there are 3 separate rooms. But we can actually provide that as well and automate that process as well for divisible rooms as well.
That's really, I hadn't thought about that use case for divisible rooms. Then when you're using it as the big room, you're making use of that investment of all the cameras and getting all the angles. But when you bring it together, you can use just 2 or 3 or whatever the layout dictates.
It's a bit more costly, because obviously you need to make sure you covered the 3 separate rooms plus the master room as well. So you kind of need 4 rooms versus 3. But it is absolutely possible, and as I say, you can completely automate it, to the fact that you could almost put micro switches on the divisible walls, so that when the walls go back, it will automatically switch and change. So you can have it on a control system, obviously, but you can, the whole point of Crestron is that control and automation to be able to simplify it.
And Automate VX has a very robust, API in there to be able to change the room configurations, the room scenarios, all of that. So, when you do have the divisible spaces, you typically have a system per space, and then one of those systems has, those multiple different room configurations. One where it's going to have only a portion of the microphones and cameras, and another one where it will have all of the cameras, or a selection of cameras and microphones.
Nice. And it's 2024, very, very nearly 2025 now. The marketing rules are we have to say AI at some point. So Neil, visual AI, what's the Crestron story with visual AI?
Well, I'll give you even more than a story. Again, I'll give you a demo, just so that you don't have to listen to my dulcet tones the whole time. So the idea with visual AI, and again, Kara's led into it really nicely, in the way in which these multi-camera solutions work. And again, there are, let's be fair, there are other multi-camera solutions out there on the market, but visual AI is a huge differentiator for us at Crestron, apart from that automation of multi-rooms and the other layouts that we'll get to in a second. But the way all of these multi-camera solutions work is that they take the coordinates of these clever microphones, like the Shure MXA920 or the Sennheiser TCC2 or the other microphones. They give us coordinates from the microphone lobe saying, I'm hearing audio from that XY coordinate, and that tells the camera to go to a preset that's determined for that chair and that position. And that kind of works so long as there is someone in that chair in that location. But if that someone is slightly off to the left or slightly off to the right, the system doesn't know. It says, well, you told me to go over there. That's the preset 17 is the one I've been told to go to because I'm hearing audio from over there. That's where it goes. Visual AI takes that to another level. It takes that coordinate as like a best start or a good starting point. But then we can say, okay, if there's not someone in that space, kind of look around and use your brain, use your intelligence to go and find them. Here's a video. I hope you can see this. I shot this in our Sightline room in New Jersey. So the idea with this is both to compare a single front of camera versus Automate VX, but also to show visual AI. So the left-hand side is just a locked off camera looking down the table, showing the side of people's faces and how bad the far end view would be. On the right hand side, obviously, is the Crestron experience where you can see me looking at the camera when I'm talking to Tracy across the table. But again, the way in which all of these systems work is that when I talk, the camera presets are told Neil's talking in that position, frame to him. As Tracy goes to talk here, it will say, okay, I'm hearing Tracy in these coordinates, switch to this preset. There you go, switch to that preset because it's heard Tracy. Now, that's great, but what happens when Tracy stands up or if she's, not standing up? The preset would give you a shot of her middle, it'd be the crotch shot, that horrible, shot of her. But what visual AI does is you'll see as she stands up here, the camera then will reframe and say, okay, well, I was told to go down to where her head would normally be sitting at a chair, but actually her head is further up, so I'm going to move up.
I'll pick the next most suitable shot based on that. Like, it's kind of the best of layouts and the best of AI tracking.
And again, we showed that view of having the tables. What happens if someone's sitting side to side, the cables aren't perfectly right, or they've moved, or something changes? Visual AI gives you that extra ability. And why don't we add some clickbait in here to say, okay, well, this is visual AI, let's call it 1.0. We've got some really cool stuff we're doing in visual AI. If you stay along till the end, we'll maybe tease that at the end of the webinar, so you can ask me about that later. So visual AI is the ability to take those coordinates, but then use some intelligence to say, okay, I'm not seeing anybody in that place. The other interesting anecdote around this is that the Crestron Automate VX solution is used in Satya Nadell's boardroom at Microsoft. And they set up tons of presets for all the chairs and all the seats in his boardroom. But one of the things he likes to do is he'll stand up and he'll stand like this behind the chair with his arms on the chair, and he'll move around. So in that case, they then have to set up all the presets for the chairs, but then also all the presets of where he might stand behind the chairs if he's wandering around. So they ended up with 4,000 presets for this room. Whereas with visual AI, they don't have to do that. They can create the presets for the chairs, but then if he's standing up, the AI will then go, okay, well, I'm not seeing his face there. It's up higher. I'll change it. I'll move. So again, a unique thing that we can take compared to other systems that are just taking PTZ coordinates from the microphones.
And one other thing to note is a lot of this is customizable. So when you are using an Automate VX system, you have the option to turn the visual AI on or off. You also have the ability to have it, only do the auto framing when the person first speaks. So then, it'll ensure that they're, center of the frame. And then you have the ability to turn on, what Neil was showing there, which is the reframing, which will, continue to adjust. And that has, a threshold that you can customize as well. How tight do you want those shots to be? Do you want it to be one person? Do you want it to be multiple people? How sensitive do you want it to be? You may not want it, if I just move a little bit over this way, you may not want it to adjust, but if I'm, all the way over to the side of the frame, then you do want it to readjust and to put me center in the frame. So that's all, options that you have with visual AI for Automate VX.
Nice. And then you gave us that kind of hierarchy of things, Cara. So Sightline is then, how do you define that? Is that an experience, that bringing all this technology together? How would you define that?
Yeah, so Sightline is bringing together all of Crestron's product lines. So not just, Automate VX with the One Beyond cameras, adding on the visual AI, but also, that native Teams experience, being able to, walk in with Crestron Flex and be able to just start your meeting, the ability to be able to control other aspects of the room, such as the shades or the lighting or something like that. As well as, being able to, share your content with AirMedia anywhere. Sightline the name comes from being able to not only have the remote participants be able to see who's speaking, but also for the people in the room to be able to easily see the remote participants. So when you see a Sightline room, you'll typically see monitors throughout the space. That way, if I'm sitting looking across the room, naturally, I can still see the remote participants without having to turn, to one particular space to be able to see them. That means, if they move a little or they raise their hand or something like that, it's just a much more natural, way to collaborate with people who may not be in the space. So that's going to be our, DMNVX routing the remote participants to all of those monitors.
Awesome. Well, time has flown by, so I really appreciate you taking us through the whole journey there. And hopefully, for those who've joined, you've got an idea of all the capabilities Crestron can bring to your rooms, particularly your Microsoft rooms, from the cable extension to BYOD through to the MTR, Windows and Android, and then through to One Beyond, Sightline, like all the capabilities. I think the key thing here is they're different solutions for different use cases. So you're not going to do, automate VX in every room. It's the right room for the right choice, but it's nice to see a portfolio there where you could stay with an OEM and pick different solutions for different rooms. So Neil, I think we're wrapping up. You're going to be at Ignite if people happen to be there as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And if people are in Chicago for Ignite, come and see us. I've got a speaking slot on the stage, 12 minutes, so blink and you'll miss it. But also, we've got a booth there. We'll have some of the technology available to see and touch. And if you want to kind of have a chat and talk further about it, then I'd love to see you and meet up with you.
Awesome. And Cara, I know you guys have got demo suites. You have them at the bigger shows. You've got them around the world as well. I think something I want to highlight for people is a big part of this experience is the remote attendee experience. So yes, it's great to come and see one of the demos, but I know you do remote demos as well. So if people want to, they can get a feel, which actually is the point of having all the cameras, is to see what the experience is. So that's quite a good way to go as well. Anything else you want to call out?
Neil, do you want to give a quick hint?
Oh yes, so we talked about the teasers. So yeah, visual AI. Today, obviously, we have the ability to say track people when they're not in the right position, maybe. But what happens if someone's looking? You told it to use that camera to look at someone, but actually they're looking at a different camera. So what if we could actually then use the intelligence to say, well, you told me to look at camera 1, but I'm detecting their face looking at camera 2. Wouldn't it be more intelligent to look and use that camera instead? So the ability to follow the face, no matter where it's looking. And there are lots of these multi-camera, these center of the room Pringle tin 360-degree cameras. But really what Crestron's doing is a lot more intelligent with this visual AI, and the fact that not only can we again, use the intelligence to see when someone's not in the right place, but also if they're looking in a different direction. So maybe they're looking at the screen at the far end of the table versus looking across the table.
Yeah, so they're in frame, but it's not the best camera choice, particularly when you get to those multi-camera sites where I can have a much better shot of that person, but I need to know who that person is to choose.
Yep, so again, that's the direction with the visual AI we're headed.
Awesome. So there's a bit of a hint. Keep that between ourselves because that is early days and didn't happen here and all that good stuff. Neil, Cara, that was awesome. Thank you for taking through. I really appreciate us going through in a non-deck heavy conversational way. Hopefully that was useful for people to absorb. If anybody wants to find out more, obviously Crestron website, see them at various events, and Neil in particular at Ignite. Cara, Neil, thanks a lot. Thanks everybody. The recording will be sent around, and any feedback, feel free to ping to me or the team as well. Great. Thanks a lot.
Thank you so much. Everyone.
Cheers all. Thank you.